From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents The Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome, everyone, to the Open Mic Show. I'm Tim Coco, your host, and joining me for the entire program, or until he can't stand it any longer, is Open Mic Show WHAV historian David Goudsward.
It was nice seeing you. I'm leaving now.
He's burned out already. Well, the handcuffs will help. All right. So,
hey, when did you do that?
All right, to longtime listeners, you don't get to see David very often. David Goudsward is a Haverhill native, currently living in Florida. He had sense to get out of the storms, but he is back. He's going to tell us what his adventures are, and we'll have some fun. Let's go through the usuals, though. You can listen and watch the Open Mic Show for the next 2 hours at WHAV.tv and on Haverhill Community Television, HC Media, Channel 22 in Haverhill on Comcast. You can also watch, and many of you have discovered this, you can watch the high-definition stream on Facebook. Go to WHAV on Facebook, and you'll be able to watch there as well. Of course, you can listen to WHAV anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at WHAV.net on your computer or smartphone. You can also listen on AM 1640, very barely, and FM 97.9 is coming soon, and we have some exciting news to talk about during the program about that event. You can also listen on cable television if you're in one of the Merrimack Valley supporting towns. Andover, Channel 8, Methuen, Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast, Channel 32 on Verizon Fios. It seems at times on Haverhill Community Television, Channel 99, that's the education channel, when nothing else is on, although we had a report last week that the stream hadn't been on. Maybe we'll get an answer to that tonight. And, of course, on Plastow and Sandown Television, Channel 17 in each of those towns when there isn't a government meeting or something along those lines. Of course, being well-rounded as WHAV is, you can also watch and listen on Haverhill, on Apple TV's Golden Oldies group, and on TuneIn, available on your smartphone and some television control boxes.
You're really not used to having a co-host, are you?
Not used to having a co-host, no, not at all.
This, boys and girls, is going to be a long night for some of us.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, maybe David wants to tell us about the prizes tonight.
Have we got prizes for you people? Trust me, I don't live here. Well, that's sort of redundant, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, we'd also turned on your mic, so that helps. Chris didn't alert me.
I have a mic?
Yes.
You mean I'm on the radio?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Some people call it the wireless.
No wire either?
No wire.
Wow.
All right, David, what are you holding, and how can our listeners get them?
Why, I just happen to be holding 4 tickets to the Haverhill Police All-Stars versus the All-Pro Patriots Celebrity Softball Team.
All right, each ticket admits 2, so we have a few to hand out.
Yes, we do.
Should we make people work for them, or should we just give it to the first person who asks?
How has the listening audience been lately?
Well, I don't know. See, David might have some excellent trivia questions that he could use to tease this, or we can just say, I'll tell you what, the first person who requests them will get 1 or 2 tickets, up to 4 people, without any hassle. After that, maybe David will come up.
All bets are off.
After that, maybe David will come up with something. So if you would like either 2 or 4 tickets or places at the All-Star Celebrity Game, which is June 6th. Then just call 978-374-1900. No heavy lifting, real easy.
Professional would have prepared for this, you know.
All right, now, David, we have our trivia question.
Yes, we do.
that we call Woody or No.
What do you know?
What do you know?
What do you know?
He hasn't complained about the title yet.
I have hated it all along.
All right. All right, so under Woody or No, David, would you like to read, let's just use the first question for now.
Okay.
Would you like to read our trivia question? The first person who can answer the Woody or No trivia question receives free admission to the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace in Haverhill.
I'm at a great disadvantage here because we're on television, and my mama always said I had a head for radio.
Oh, well, there you go.
In what year did Whittier publish his last collection of poetry, At Sundown?
Okay, you got that, folks? One more time, David.
In what year did Whittier publish his last collection of poetry, At Sundown? Which is kind of appropriate a title if you think about it.
Yeah, it actually is, At Sundown. All right, so our first person who can answer the trivia question receives free admission to the Whittier birthplace, 305 Whittier Road in Haverhill. It's now open for the season. It's a more than 300-year-old home, and goes back to the first period of architecture. But Whittier didn't live there until he was born, of course, in 1807.
Did you hear what you just said?
Yes, I know. I did, yes. So, all right. Those who would like to call the program, 978-374-1900. If you're shy, you can email me directly, tcoco, Tcoco, at whav.net. Or you can use the message board below the TV screen at whav.tv. That's normally how David communicates with us, but he's going to be able to type right here. No.
Actually, no, I'm not. I left my phone in the car.
All right, so we can do that. Now, we have one other big prize we give out once a month, but all month long we're going to be taking what month is this? May. We're taking June birthday. I am getting older, David, but you're the same age. Yeah, matter of fact, you're significantly older, I think.
Yes, but whereas I've kept my youthful zeal for life, you have become decrepit and angry and old.
Oh, well, there you go. That's an honest opinion if I've ever heard one. All right. David.
Yeah, this is going to be a long night for both of us, isn't it?
Chris is laughing so hysterically, I'm afraid the camera's going to start shaking. All right. All right. So, every month we give away a free birthday or anniversary cake from Albee Second Generation Italian Bakery, 140 South Main Street in Bradford. You know, David, that's actually an issue that I have been expecting you to chime in on.
Yes?
Bradford lost its identity in 1896 when it was annexed officially by Haverhill. So do we refer to Bradford as a neighborhood, as a section of the city, or do we say Haverhill or South Haverhill?
That is an excellent question, and I know for a fact they hate South Haverhill, so
Yes.
let's go with that.
You want to annoy the Bradford people?
Well, you know why they were annexed, I assume.
I believe they didn't want to build schools.
No, it was even less simple than that, because we wouldn't want it too simple.
All right, less simple.
Ward Hill. Plain and simple.
Actually, David. Okay, I want David to tell you that story. But before we do, let's just finish up this. So, if you haven't played this game before, it's very easy. Just call the open mic show, wish someone a happy birthday or a couple a happy anniversary. Chris will take the name before you go on the air, and it'll be entered into. It'll be literally folded up, placed into a hat, and we'll draw the winner the last Monday of the month. Now, all you have to do is say, "Happy birthday, Mary," or "Happy anniversary, Mary and John." That's all you have to do. If you want to talk further, that's up to you, but you don't have to. Real easy to win. And the winner, and make sure you pick someone who's your neighbor or friend or coworker, so you get a slice of this delicious 7-inch cake, choice of vanilla or chocolate, from Albee Second Generation Italian Bakery. Hey, I could sell things.
You almost did that without your cheat sheet.
No, actually, sometimes having the cheat sheet, I shouldn't be looking at them because then I look away from the camera. Of course, radio listeners don't know that. All right, so we have prizes tonight. What do we have, David? You have?
I have tickets to a celebrity softball game.
We have free admission to Whittier Birthplace.
A bargain at twice the price.
And free birthday or anniversary cake from Albee Second Generation Italian Bakery. All right. maybe do a little bit of background on David first. All right, I first met David.
Got 4 minutes.
Before the break. He's watching the time. All right, let's see, someone should watch for breaks.
I'm afraid of your producer.
David and I first met at what? Constantino's school, when the school first opened?
We were the second class to graduate from Constantino, having served all 4 years. So it had been open at that point 5 years.
Okay. All right. So then, let's see. I don't remember what we did back then.
The humanities class, the great disastrous experiment.
Oh, that's right. That's actually the first time. Actually, you can credit David for my interest in old-time radio.
Oh, no, you can't.
Yes, you can. So here's the thing. Now, I know that some of the young people out there aren't going to understand some of these words, like film, 8 millimeter. Some of the older folks are going to have funny thoughts about those two terms.
Really need to keep this moving quickly before they start thinking.
So, in humanities, our job, David and I were a team, our job was to put together a film. And I believe, probably David, because I don't think I would have picked this, chose...
It was a post-apocalyptic...
No, Phantom of the Opera, I thought.
No, I remember at the very end... Now, wait.
See, now I've stumped him.
No, I just...
This was like 40-some-odd years ago, folks.
No, I don't think it was Phantom of the Opera. I think I remember smoke bombs we set off.
But weren't we burning down the opera?
No, because they were colored smoke. It was a science fiction fantasy thing.
Anyway.
It doesn't matter because we ended up only shooting 8 feet of film because it turns out somebody had already used up all the film and we couldn't read a camera.
Yes, we did not know that most of the film in the camera had been used. So here we were. Of course, we were like the average student. We waited till the night before or something close and we needed a project. So we decided to do a radio play. Maybe that's when the Phantom of the Opera came in.
The only thing I remember about that particular radio play, other than the sheer desperation and flop sweat involved, is that at the end, something sinks to the bottom of the sea. And the special effect we used was me standing in front of...
I think that was my confidence.
Well, no, that was our grade. But I remember taking a fish... we had a fish tank at the house, and I took the aerator hose and I was forcing air through it so that we could tape the bubble sound. That's the only thing I remember about that radio show.
But anyway, for inspiration, David said, have you heard, it was on WEEI in Boston at the time, the CBS Radio Mystery Theater.
The CBS Radio, pause for effect, Mystery Theater.
With E.G. Marshall as host. So I became a devotee of audio drama, as they would call it today. Then it was a radio play. And as a result, WHAV to this day plays old-time radio every night at 10 o'clock. Matter of fact, tonight, Suspense at 10 o'clock, a brand new episode from the new producers at Blue Hours Productions of Suspense. So, and encore performance at 1 a.m. I know David stays up for Johnny Dollar.
Oh, I'm faithful.
Actually, Johnny Dollar last night I thought was interesting because it's a radio show about a murder at a radio station. And I actually thought it might be a good setup for tonight.
You keep dumping stuff on me I'm not expecting. It's going to be a murder at a radio station tonight.
All right. So it's a wonderful to have David Goudsward here on the Open Mic Show in person. All right. Just before we go to the break, why is it that Bradford and Haverhill merged?
Ward Hill. Plain and simple. That's the easy answer. The more complicated version is Ward Hill was built. And if you'll recall, Ward Hill, it was created by basically Knipe for his shoe factory. He had the factory, had his own train station, he had his own church, he had his own post office is still there, the one-room unit. And all these streets were built for the house to be for the employees. In fact, Pat O'Malley, if anyone remembers their Bradford College professors, lived in the house of one of the managers. It's one of the more elaborate houses in the neighborhoods, off of Oxford Street, I believe. But that was a little cluster of people who had nothing to do with Bradford except for the fact that they shared a geographic zip code with them, and they wanted sidewalks, they wanted indoor plumbing, they wanted water, and Knipe wasn't paying for everything, particularly since it was municipal. I mean, municipal water is not his job. Municipal sidewalks are not his job. So consequently, Ward Hill wanted these things. Bradford said no. So Ward Hill started annexation process, and they had more people than Bradford Village did. They outvoted the Bradford people, and that's why it was annexed.
Very interesting. So it was a coup.
A coup.
So the people from Ward Hill outvoted the people from the rest of the town of Bradford and merged with Haverhill, and I believe there was a reciprocal vote in Haverhill to accept Bradford.
Oh, I don't know how well that one went, but Ward Hill definitely overwhelmingly voted yes, and Bradford overwhelmingly voted no, but Ward Hill had all the shoe workers.
Curiously, the Bradford Town Hall is still a public building, but not for much longer. It is the Greenleaf Elementary School, which will be merged into Hunking, and that is coming along pretty well. All right, I did manage to go over my time, so let's go. We're going to take a brief break. We're going to hear about Massachusetts history on this very day from our friends at Mass Moments. We'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show and David Goudsward in just a minute.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Last year, WHAV helped local nonprofits by airing nearly 10,000 community spotlight messages. WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free.
Catch the wave!
Suspense, a weekly anthology of notable melodramas from stage and screen, fiction and radio, presented every Monday night to bring you to the edge of your chair, to keep you in suspense. Listen to the new Suspense with a company of Hollywood actors and surprising guest stars, Monday nights at 10, with encore performances at 1 a.m., right here on WHAV. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Today is May 9th. On this day in 1974, 25-year-old Bruce Springsteen played at the Harvard Square Theater in Cambridge. Although popular with the college crowd in the Northeast, Springsteen was not yet a star. That night, he and the E Street Band opened for Bonnie Raitt. The influential music critic John Landau was in the audience. Overwhelmed by what he heard, Landau wrote, "I saw my rock and roll past flash before my eyes. I saw something else. I saw rock and roll's future, and its name is Bruce Springsteen." In the years since that momentous spring night in Cambridge, the Boss has had 14 albums go platinum, has won 11 Grammys and an Oscar, and has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For more about this and other Mass Moments, go online to massmoments.org. Brought to you by the Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities.
Catch the wave! WHAV! Open Mic!
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. All right, David Goudsward is not only a guest on the Open Mic Show, we're putting him to work. He is going to be guest co-host on the program. And David Goudsward lives in Lake Worth, Florida. I'm reading from his book as my memory is shot.
Because he doesn't really know me that well. I just met him in the parking lot.
He's raised on the summit of Haverhill's Scotland Hill. Author of 10 books on various non-fiction topics. His latest publication, is this the latest one? H.P. Lovecraft in the Merrimack Valley? No, his latest one is Horror Guide
to Florida, which I didn't bring.
Which he didn't bring.
Because it wasn't relevant to a Massachusetts audience.
Well, see, David likes to make sure the audience can identify. But do you know how many snowbirds there are here in Haverhill? It might very well be.
I don't think most of them have come back yet, based on traffic down by me.
Oh, I see. Currently can be seen on episodes of the Travel Channel shows Mysteries at the Museum and Mysteries at the Monument. Matter of fact, last night I was thumbing through Netflix. I never you get that online. And I see Mysteries at the Museum is now on Netflix. Or maybe it has been and I just discovered it.
That technology is way beyond me. The connections in Florida are so poor, I don't try streaming at all. It's not worth the aggravation.
You know, they use string and paper cups.
Actually, we use alligators. We type the message up, we tape it to them, and we send them for where they're going.
All right, now what's that? That reminds me, that's the thing flying over there.
It's
all right,
Florida's version of the Pony Express.
But I'm particularly in David Goudsward's debt because last year, as some of you know, I'm president of the board of Whittier Birthplace, and last year David Goudsward came up with the idea, inspired by Whittier himself, of putting together an anthology of supernatural stories based or inspired by our local poet John Greenleaf Whittier. And the result is Snowbound with Zombies.
Dum dum dum.
The book is available for sale at Whittier Birthplace, and I believe you can also pick it up at the Haverhill Public Library's Friend Shop and other places.
And other fine book dealers throughout the world.
That's right. But David did something so generous that although he is the editor and the person who compiled the book and actually did all the work on the book, except...
well, I didn't write the stories.
He didn't write all of the stories. There were 22 short stories
felt like
in there.
it by the end, but...
but he did contribute to it, and he actually even gave me a spot in the book. But the thing is that he is turning away any royalties that would normally accrue to the editor and giving those to Whittier Birthplace. So even if you buy the book at Amazon.com, the profit goes to Whittier Birthplace. So that was so generous of you.
Well, I thought it was appropriate, first of all, because you're the ones who are selling it, not me. That's not a book I go around peddling very much. But more importantly, all of the authors in there donated the story. Traditionally, in a professional anthology, every author gets paid either a flat feed or he gets a per word. And no, they all volunteered. And there are some major award-winning authors in there in a variety of genres, and they did it for free. Why shouldn't I?
And some of those are, who's been on this program, John McElveen, Christopher Golden, Scott Goudsward, who's been on the program, and let's go through the rest of them.
All right.
Peter Rawlik, am I saying that correct?
Peter Rawlik. Pete Rawlik is one of the top pulp fiction writers out there right now.
Morven Westfield.
Lives in Massachusetts, down south of here. Has a wonderful trilogy of vampire. Not your normal stuff, not your sparkly stuff, but a very distinctive approach to vampires.
All right, and we have Celia Thaxter.
Celia Thaxter is a protege of John Greenleaf Whittier. He actually encouraged her to begin writing. This is actually a poem that sounds very much...
So some of these are the...
We snuck a few reprints in there.
A couple reprints. Okay, that's why. The name did sound familiar, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. Unless this really is a Snowbound with Zombies, of a contemporary of Whittier is still with us today.
Yeah. But not saying nothing.
All right, then we have Stuart Conover.
Yeah, the list is just on and on. These are all well-established authors. There's a couple of people who have kind of new at writing.
Actually, Roxanne Dent's been on this program.
Yeah, her sister Karen has as well.
And then the other authors are, we'll just move through them, and if something strikes you, come out. W.H. Pugmire, Ken Feig, Jr., Judy Calhoun, Tracy Carboni, K.H. Vaughn, Joseph Citro, Christy Peterson, Snoover,
Schoonover. It's a good Dutch name, trust me.
Karen Dent, we had her, Hannah Gonsman, David Bernard, I wonder who that is.
He's not bad. He's a little flighty, but he's okay.
All right, Michelle Soulier, or Soulieri.
Yeah.
Gregory Norris, and of course we had Faye Ringo, but there was also a contribution from John Greenleaf Whittier himself.
And Samuel Pickman.
That's right, Samuel Picard.
Picard.
All right.
They're all starting to blur.
This book is available at Whittier Birthplace or on Amazon.com. I think the Friend Shop, Buttonwoods may have it. Whittier Amesbury Home may have it, but we'll actually be working on that this season. The book came out just as we were getting ready to close
it was
the
a
season.
brilliant maneuver.
Last year.
We tried to get it out for Halloween, forgetting that Halloween is the end of season, so there's no point in getting a book out because nobody's going to be there to buy it.
All right, now
I'd like to point out, just for the record, this will be the first official announcement. We are doing another anthology of Whittier-inspired stories. Only this time it's going to be Mysteries and Cozies. And we're calling it Murder Among Friends. And again, it's all Quaker stories or somehow involving John Greenleaf Whittier. The reason I say Quaker is because I just got our first acceptance from a Amesbury author named Edith Maxwell, who is a award-winning writer of murder cozies, and she has a character she uses in her stories and just came out with her first full-length novel about her. She's a Quaker midwife in Amesbury in the 1880s. Now what makes this interesting is because she's a Quaker in Amesbury, she also knows John Greenleaf Whittier. He makes cameos in all her stories, and she just happens to be a docent at the Amesbury house.
Isn't that wonderful? Matter of fact, there is a new film out, and we hope to have the directors on the program in the next week or so. I'm going to tell you more about that after the break. Before we do that, though, if David would help me with this. David Goudsward has, and I'm the one who slows it down, begun work on a history of WHAV. And of course, maybe it's a good thing that book hasn't come out yet, because it seems like we keep getting new information and voices from the past, and a great opportunity for all of you to share in those inside stories is Reunion of the Radio Stars. It takes place Wednesday, June 8th, 6 o'clock at Maria's in downtown Haverhill.
Not to be confused with Battle of the Network Stars.
That's right, yes. Reunion of the Radio Stars.
There will be no swimming competition.
Now, what's interesting, Chris, I don't know if he has it.
I don't have the updated one.
Updated one what?
The old one.
No,
Since you changed the date, I don't have.
Oh, we don't have one with the right date? Oh, no, all right.
We can all hear you.
Yes, this is live radio, so we talk to the producer this way. But in any event, the date originally was another date, and it turned out that was the same night as the Chamber of Commerce annual dinner, so of course we moved it. So it is now Wednesday, June 8th. But listen, folks, do you remember Bob Clinkscale, a WCVB Channel 5 news anchor? Well, he's coming. And not only that, he goes back to the very early days of WHAV during the 1950s when he was known as Bob Douglas, and decided after leaving HAV that he could now use his real name. I think that happens to a lot of people here, doesn't it?
There does seem to be a tendency to change their name and address after working at HAV.
Yeah, David McGillicuddy, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. My real name is Ramon.
So anyway, Bob Clinkscale he actually started in Vermont, came to WHAV shortly thereafter, but he worked with two other people, Joe Clemente, who later became well-known at WHDH in Boston, and he worked with Pat Sprague. Now, that name doesn't immediately ring a bell. It's because we're we're trying to fool you. But Pat Sprague married Edwin V. Johnson, for whom this newsroom is named. Pat worked at WHAV in her own right. She was hired in 1952 in the traffic department, and she had a co-host for a program called the Friday Night Shoppers. So it was Pat Sprague and Edwin V. Johnson. Well, what do you know? Another what do you know? They fell in love. They got married, and that wedding was broadcast on WHAV. And Pat and Ed hosted a program after that called The Newlyweds, which is so appropriate. Well, Pat Johnson will be joining us, Joe Clemente, Bob Klingscale, all from that time. After the break, we're going to talk more about David Goudsward and his books and his upcoming work. We're also going to talk more about Reunion of the Radio Stars and some of the people from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. We'll be back after local news with WHAV News Director Dana Esmo.
Open mic.
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:01.
WHAV LP Haverhill. WHAV is a nonprofit community service of Public Media of New England, Incorporated.
Here's what's happening in local news. Supporters of Creative Haverhill this morning launched an email campaign urging Mayor James J. Fiorentini to add last week's City Council tourism proposal to his proposed budget. Creative Haverhill, which is largely funded by a state Adams grant, would receive 5% of meals tax and parking fine revenues through an Act Haverhill fund. The proposed city contribution, estimated at $45,000 per year, would be matched by corporate sponsors, quote, to promote arts, culture, and tourism as a tool for Haverhill economic development, according to a proposal by City Councilors Andy Vargas and Thomas J. Sullivan last Tuesday night. Quote, it is crucial that Mayor Fiorentini understands the value of investing in the arts, which is why I'm asking for your help today. Though we've received support from the City Council, it is only the mayor who can make changes to the city's budget. Will you consider emailing the mayor to express your support for the Act proposal? Jenny Arndt of Creative Haverhill wrote in an email to supporters. Chief of Staff David S. Van Dam told WHAV, quote, arts, culture, and tourism is important to the mayor, but he wants to review what was presented at the City Council meeting before making a decision. The budget is done. We have to figure this out, end quote. A former Methuen man indicted last fall in New Hampshire, along with several Haverhill residents, pleaded guilty last week to drug dealing charges in U.S. District Court Concord. Justin Bartimus, 35, formerly of Methuen, pleaded guilty May 4 to conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute oxycodone and cocaine and distribution of oxycodone, U.S. Attorney Emily Gray Rice said Friday. Bartimus appeared before Judge Stephen J. McAuliffe to enter his guilty plea. According to court documents and statements in the plea proceeding, Bartimus admitted he sold oxycodone to a cooperating individual in Haverhill and Methuen and Salem, New Hampshire. He also admitted that he participated in the distribution of cocaine and oxycodone with other individuals. A sentencing hearing has been scheduled for August 30th, 2016. Bartimus is one of 6 individuals indicted by a federal grand jury September 23rd and charged with conspiracy to distribute and possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute. The other defendants are Mara Morillo, 40, Franklin Morillo, 41, Juan Rojas, 31, and Jorge Medina, 25, all of Haverhill, and Michael Lally, 28, of Salem, New Hampshire. Rojas was also charged with possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime and conspiracy to possess a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence in a separate indictment. Lally pleaded guilty March 22nd. His sentencing is scheduled for June 29. The remaining defendants in the drug conspiracy case are scheduled for trial September 20th. The last time WHAV began program testing on FM, listeners heard announcer Bob Douglas in a series of perfunctory announcements alerting listeners to the presence of the new station. That was 1959, and Bob Douglas went on to an esteemed broadcasting career, including as one of the pioneer news anchors at WCVB Channel 5 using his real name, Bob Clinkscale. He is one of Boston's broadcasting celebrities making his way back to Haverhill for an historic reunion of the radio stars, Wednesday, June 8 at 6 p.m. at Maria's Galleria Banquet Room.
This is WHAV FM in Haverhill, Massachusetts. We are program testing our new transmitter on 92.5 megacycles.
His appearance is especially fitting as the WHAV call letters prepare to return to FM at 97.9. Clinkscale, who served as WHAV program director at the time, joins alphabetically Paul Belfuil, Joe Clementi, Joanne Duty, Patricia Johnson, Mark LeMay, Dave Macaulay, Bill Maxwell Masick, Eric Scott, and Mark Watson. Tentative attendees include former WBZ news anchor Gary LaPierre and James Simmons, former WHAV program director who preceded Clinkscale. Other celebrities are expected. The public is invited to enjoy the reunion featuring wine and food pairing. Tickets are $45 each or $425 for a table of 10 and may be purchased online at whav.net, where more in-depth coverage can be found. In community notes, Be Imagine Music Studios youth bands and soloists will perform live music Saturday while Shoetown Arts Center conducts a public arts project in front of the Merrimack Street parking garage. The events between 2 and 5 p.m. Saturday, May 14, are more in a series aimed at reimagining the brick plaza in front of the Herbert H. Goki Jr. Memorial Parking Deck. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Priscilla Huff. At least 36 Americans accused of fraud or financial misconduct are linked to offshore companies in the so-called Panama Papers. Our U.S. correspondent Patrice Howard reports.
The data released shows that among Mossack Fonseca's clients is Len Galchuk, a former U.S. professional football player who has been accused of fraud and racketeering. He is just one of nearly 40 American businessmen tied to the firm, which has denied publicly using offshore businesses for tax evasion, money laundering, terrorist finance, or other illicit purposes. The leaked data has already forced the resignations of Iceland's Prime Minister Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson and Spain's Industry Minister José Manuel Soria. Journalists in possession of the papers are only releasing relevant data, not the documents themselves. Patrice Howard, Los Angeles.
The U.S. Justice Department is suing the state of North Carolina over its law to police the use of bathrooms. The law essentially required all persons to use the bathroom that matched their gender at birth, regardless of how they express their gender now. U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch says the law simply enshrines discrimination.
They created state-sponsored discrimination against transgender individuals who simply seek to engage in the most private of functions in a place of safety and security. A right taken for granted by most of us.
The mayor of Davao City, Rodrigo Duterte, is in the lead as the final votes are counted in the Philippine elections. He's concerned many with his tough talk, including claiming he'd assert sovereignty over parts of the South China Sea by taking to the waters on his jet ski. While refusing to comment on the specific outcome of the vote, White House spokesman Josh Earnest did repeat American policy toward the region that disputes should be resolved peacefully.
And any sort of destabilizing activities there would not be in our interest. So while we are not a claimant to any of those land features, we do have an interest in those differences being resolved through diplomacy.
Families of British service personnel killed in Iraq have been finally given a date for the Chilcot Report. Our London correspondent Natalie Powell reports.
It's been a 7-year wait for the relatives of 179 British service personnel who were killed on duty in Iraq between 2003 and 2009. The report was launched to investigate the UK's participation of the US-led invasion of Iraq and its aftermath. The long-awaited findings are expected to be more than 2 million words long, and family members will be given an early draft of the report before it's published. The chairman of the report, Sir John Chilcot, has announced that national security vetting of his report has been done and the findings will be published without redaction. Natalie Powell, London.
Syrian state television claims the truce for Aleppo has been extended, while the U.S. military says the leader of the Islamic State in Iraq's Anbar province was killed in an airstrike. This is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre with Wave Weather. There is a frost advisory late tonight through early Tuesday morning for interior locations. We'll have clear skies. Temperatures will be bottoming out in the mid to upper 30s. Some of the more isolated spots, the more protected spots tonight may drop into the low 30s. On Tuesday, looking forward to sunshine, upper 60s to near 70. Clear Tuesday night with a low in the mid 40s. And on Wednesday, sunshine with a high in the upper 60s to near 70, maybe cooler at the coast with a sea breeze. I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre. Your next Wave Weather in 30 minutes.
WHAV is the only FM station assigned to the city of Haverhill. The sooner you contribute at WHAV.net, the sooner WHAV signs on at 97.9 FM. Just look for the photograph of Tom Bergeron, honorary chairperson of WHAV's Make Waves campaign. Stay informed each day with local news, coupled with FSN's worldwide coverage. WHAV LP Haverhill, the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free.
Catch the wave, WHAV, Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show. I'm your host, Tim Coco. My guest is David Goudsward, native of Haverhill.
Tim Coco.
And not Tim Coco. And, of course, producing in master control, the man with 5 radio jobs. One of them is paid, not here.
Well, come on, let's not talk crazy.
Chris Porter. Chris is actually going to be doing, has that started yet? He's going to be working at WATD in Marshfield, Massachusetts.
If you don't know where it is, you don't want to listen.
You can also hear him Saturdays between 4 and 6 p.m. on WMEX 1510 a.m. out of Boston, the show that kicked off rock and roll in Boston, the station that kicked off rock and roll. He's also a WXBJ, a new station of the same class of WHAV in Salisbury. And I think he's on WCCM too, isn't he? Okay, no longer CCM. So
he may not be working himself to death after all.
All right, so we're working on that.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we're doing that. All right, we're going to talk some more to David Goudsward. I want to remind you, we are taking your phone calls, 978-374-1900. No topic is off limits. Well, mostly no topic off limits. 978-374-1900. Just call anytime. Don't worry about interrupting. And we'll just continue with our banter and chatter. But I want to give you some good news. WHAV has filed 2 applications with the Federal Communications Commission. One of them has already been approved. So we're much, much closer to that date that WHAV FM 97.9 goes on the air. Now there are still lots of things to buy, and in fact someone has to climb 350 feet and attach our new antenna, so there's a little cost to that. And we were thinking of sending
you're not doing it yourself?
No, we were thinking of sending Chris up, but apparently there's more to it than we thought. No, half kidding. But
there's the kicking and screaming. You forgot that part.
The kicking and screaming, that part's the one I meant. Yeah, so they're professional riggers, they're called. So we're very close, but we need to raise some more money. This is a non-profit after all. No one here is paid.
What? What? Wait a minute here, bucko.
Oh, that's right. You're getting a ticket to the celebrity softball game.
Oh, well, that's different.
All right. I do hear the phones ringing. But to help do this, we're going to have a lot of fun. A reunion of the Radio Stars takes place Wednesday, June 8th at Maria's Galleria Banquet Hall in downtown Haverhill. And it is loaded with stars. And I hadn't had a chance to tell you all this, but Michael Burns from WMJX 106.7, we're going to mention other stations from time to time, he got his start at WHAV, and he is the latest to confirm his attendance. So far you've heard the people from the 1950s, Pat Johnson, Bob Clinkscale, known then as Bob Douglas, and Joe Clemente, who went on to fame at WHDH in Boston. But as we move through the years, we're also going to have Joanne Duty, who I worked with. You may remember her from WFNX or from WXRV. Paul Belfay, here's a name you probably remember not only from WHAV, but WZID and some other stations. Mark LeMay, who you still hear on WHAV about every 15 minutes. He does all those imaging announcements, we call them. Dave McCauley, who also began at WHAV, will be there. And someone who was known on the radio as Bill Maxwell. You know him as City Councilor Bill Masick. He was on many stations, WNBP and Newburyport, among others. He'll be joining us. Eric Scott will be joining us, and Eric has an interesting resume as well, if I can get to it fast enough. Let's see. He began at WHAV in 1983, returned in 1992, also worked for WUNR, WBOS, and is currently afternoon drive host at Mix 94.1 in New Hampshire's Lakes region. And we have Mark Watson. Mark Watson worked for WHAV between 1984 and 1987, later employed by WCAP. So quite a list of radio stars. I have your autograph books handy. This is open to the public. Reunion of the Radio Stars. Chris will put a graphic on the screen for those of you watching on television, but tickets are $45 a person, but it includes wine and food, and I'm sure there's some soft drinks as well, but it is a wine tasting extravaganza, and there will be gifts for attendees and some raffles, some great prizes. It should be a lot of fun. So all you have to do is go to WHAV.net on your computer, click on the banner at the top of the page, and you also can buy tickets there. Feel free, if you'd like, to write a check, $45 a person, or for a table of 10, a little bit of a discount, $425. Send your checks to WHAV 189 Ward Hill Avenue, here in Haverhill, 01835. All right, we have phone calls, but let's first take a brief break for Community Spotlight, and we'll be back with David Goudsward and you, our callers, on the Open Mic Show.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This is listener-supported community radio. WHAV is the Merrimack Valley's Pacifica affiliate.
Johnny Dollar.
Johnny Dollar, in spite of writing the fanciest expense accounts in the industry, is in high demand by his employers. He's a freelance insurance investigator on the job only when the stakes are sky high. When murder or fraud covers a venal grab for profits, it's Johnny's job to jolt the facts from those involved. Detective work in all corners of the world is a specialty for yours truly, Johnny Dollar, one of your great Sunday listening treats on CBS Radio.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, airs at 10 p.m. Sunday night with an encore performance at 1 a.m.
Community Spotlight.
The Haverhill Firefighting Museum is creating a memorial commemorating the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack in New York City. Museum board members are looking for personal stories from residents in the greater Haverhill and southern New Hampshire areas. Those with a personal story to share or seeking more information are asked to call Cynthia Graham at 978-994-1854 or Patricia Graham at 978-835-1565. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at whav.net or email news@whav.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Mark LeMay.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. My guest, David Goudsward. But we're going to go right to the phones. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Good evening, Tim. Good evening, David. How are you?
I'm fine. David is tired out from an investigative mission on this trip, but David, speak for yourself.
I'm tired from an investigative mission on this trip.
Jerry, what's on your mind tonight? Nice to hear from you.
Actually, one thing, when you started talking about the celebrities, and in the program, I was just thinking if David had ever found out anything about my classmate, Ray McDonnell.
I think he did. I don't know if he has his notes with him.
I don't have my notes with me. It appears he's living in upstate New York, but
That's correct. Yeah, I know that.
I'm not finding a lot of luck getting his address. I did contact some people in Hollywood I know, and apparently the Screen Actors Guild and doesn't give out addresses at all for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
but I
the
also
alumni news of the college that he went to, and he went to Amherst.
I was in Amherst Saturday.
College wouldn't give me his name, his name, his address.
Well, I've got one more angle I want to try. I have a friend who lives up in the boonies of New Hampshire who used to write for Soap Opera Digest. And I'm hoping he might know if there's some sort of a database or historical archive that might have this information. So I haven't given up. I'm closer. I've got him narrowed down.
Oh, thank you so
He
much,
shan't
David.
escape me.
I would like to surprise him someday by giving him a call, and talking about what a great voice he had,
Yeah, what a career he had.
And what was that? Soap. He was in a couple of soap shows.
Yeah.
Soap,
Well, the only one I followed was Dark Shadows, so I can't help you with the names.
Yeah.
That makes me old, doesn't it?
Tim, the big news in this area is that Methuen said no to totes, right?
That's right. Actually, Jerry, you said that on Open Mic Show last week, so thanks to you, WHAV was the first to report that story and then had a big follow-up the next day on WHAV News. And Jerry, you are a great reporter. We appreciate your bringing that to our attention. It looks like City Councilor Jamie Atkinson Methuen was the only person who voted in favor of toters.
Yes, that's correct. It was pretty decisive, I'll tell you. I think that the best way to attack the problem is to do some education. Even starting in, spend some money on education, even in the schools, on recycling. In fact, we had 2 recycle, containers, and my wife put them out early in the morning, and now we only have 1. So, I hope whoever took it uses it appropriately.
Oh, gee. So it was recycled by a thief, huh?
Yeah, it was recycled. So, I don't know if the recycling Nazis will accept something that I might buy at Home Depot, or these were these were the real recycling bins, they call them.
Well, in Haverhill, Jerry, actually last week was the first week at my house that we were able to use the 64-gallon toter. Now, for me and my family, that's going to be plenty because almost everything we put out is recycling.
I see.
And now Haverhill, when they distributed the new toters, gave everyone basically their bumper stickers, recycling stickers. So the city of Haverhill is going to accept any old trash barrels you have as recycling containers. It appears they would like them marked with these new stickers, but I think they'll actually pick them up either way if it's obvious that they're recycling. So, but after that story about Methuen appeared on WHAV, we had a number of listeners call and say they wished that Haverhill City Council would vote it down.
Yes, the thing that was interesting was, nobody really thought about one thing which I think is very important.
What is that?
Loss of jobs.
I thought about it.
I knew somebody like you would, and I would. I don't know how many trucks there were, but even if there was 10 trucks, that's at least 10, 15 people that would be without jobs.
I will say, though, that when Councilor Colin LePage was on the Open Mic Show a few weeks ago and made the case that this will encourage, or maybe the better word is force, more people to recycle, I have to say I think that argument is probably a good one. I think more people will now think a little bit, especially when they're getting close to filling their 64 gallons. So
yes.
I do think he's right. I do think it will help recycle.
One of the things that people should really think about too is how good recycling is. The beverage cans, for example. Do you know how much it costs? To generate to take bauxite from where is it, Peru or someplace, and make tin cans.
Make an aluminum can, yes. Oh no,
an awful lot of electricity for one thing, and that's why they locate these facilities near the cheapest power they can find, which is Canada and upstate New York, where they have water. Where they have where they have power from dams and impoundments and things like that.
Now, David, I believe, has this type of a container in Florida. David, how does it work there?
Terribly.
Really?
Terribly. The problem we had in Florida, it's probably going to be similar to what you're going to be seeing in Haverhill pretty soon. The first part is they tend to, anything that involves a charge for pickup, a mattress, a sofa, a stove, does not get picked up, does not get paid for. It ends up in the Little River. It ends up in Hilldale Cemetery. That's the recycling you're about to start seeing
at the boat ramp in Methuen.
Yeah. The barrels themselves do not hold up well after from the beating they take. The arms come down, they slam into the two sides, it lifts it up, it shakes it, which tends to knock the hinge off of the lid, and then they slam it down on the ground. They tend to crack and break very easily, even
especially
in cold
during
weather.
Times, because that material it cracks very.
It's a fiberglass. It's fiberglass based. It gets brittle. And in
brittle,
Florida, they're getting rid of them because after they break them, they won't take them, and of course you can't recycle them, and people don't want to spend $200 on a new barrel.
Yes.
So what's going to happen to all that trash when people no longer have a replacement from the city and they have to pay for it themselves? And the answer is Hilldale Cemetery, Little River.
I'm glad that Haverhill is more or less doing a study on it from Methuen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, like I said,
that's what I had hoped was going to come out of this initially.
Yeah, I suppose leading by bad example is leading.
There would be almost 100 people in the audience, and it took 15, 20, 30 minutes to hear everybody during public participation. And then when the vote came, and there was only one who always votes in favor of anything the mayor wants anyway, I was really happy. And
what I will say, though, about listening to the city council meeting in Methuen is that Mayor Zarni was a pretty good sport. He says, "Hey, I'm just telling you what I was thinking. If you don't like it, that's fine with me." Is he really that easygoing, or is he going to get even later?
I didn't think he was very. I didn't
You
think
could be
he
both.
Was I didn't think he was that cordial. I'll tell you, I really didn't think so.
Oh, you didn't think so? Okay, maybe it's just
there was one meeting when he actually said those words, and maybe that's the one you heard. But I think he was pretty disappointed that he didn't get the vote.
Oh, okay.
I did some telephone calling too.
Well, I suppose as far as the rollout in Haverhill goes, it seems, all in all, it was pretty good. There are some multifamily homes that were mistaken for single-family homes, so they didn't get enough containers. I imagine that's going to be ironed out as we go.
Yeah,
but I think what bothers people the most, and I'm just, from what I've heard, it's not my personal view, but I think what bothers people the most is that, and I said this when Councilor LePage was here, although there were rules about no more than 3 barrels, let's face it, if you put out 6, Capital Waste still picked them up. Maybe the word didn't get out to the drivers, but either way, it didn't seem to be enforced.
I see.
And when people were allowed to put out 1 item for so-called bulk waste, a couch, a chair, people would put out a whole living room set and have them picked up. So as far as those people are concerned...
Maybe they went to a second-hand store.
Yeah, maybe they're picked up by other people.
Yeah.
So now you're talking Florida again.
I think, you drive along the road there, sometimes you see some things that look pretty good, I'll tell you.
Well, actually, my father was one of those people who was an antique dealer after he retired as a plumber. And, sometimes people don't realize they're throwing away valuables. He found on the side of the road, almost mint condition oak furniture piece that was, 150 years old.
Is that right?
And he told the homeowner that maybe you want to reconsider maybe selling this to an antique store. They said, we just don't want it. You want it? Take it away. So
is that right?
He did.
So he cleaned it up. He fixed it. He re-shellacked it, and I think it was like a $500 piece.
The other important news is that the governor came out in the Tribune. I think there was a story in the Tribune. The governor wants to take primacy for the wastewater and water pollution control programs.
Okay. So what does that mean?
DEP has every other program, I think. I always thought that the Division of Water Pollution Control, which is a section of DEP, has to do with river sampling, construction of sewage treatment plants, operation of the plants, etc. I always thought that they had primacy, but according to a discussion with the former assistant commissioner, my friend, he said no, water pollution control was the only division of DEP that didn't accept primacy.
And, what does that mean to our listeners, primacy?
Well, basically, primacy means that you, the state, I'm saying the state, agrees with EPA that you're going to promulgate regulations either equal to or even stronger than the federal regulations relative to the program. So, and for that, you get goodies. You get funding. You get staff. You get, for example, when the Clean Water Act was initiated, Massachusetts got $700 million to build wastewater treatment plants. If a community had a set of approved plans, and there was an awful rush to get approved plans and get them in order, then the federal government would give you a grant, and that's how we got most of all our sewage treatment plants on the Merrimack River built.
That's
through
right.
the Water Pollution Control act and the funding.
And now they're all about 30, 40 years old, right?
Exactly. The only one that's had any retrofitting at all is the Greater Lawrence, which is close to you, not too far away.
Yeah, are they still doing sludge burning, or did that not happen?
Pardon?
Weren't they doing sludge burning, or did that not happen?
Yes, you could smell it over your house, right?
Well,
it was terrible.
David was getting it in Florida, weren't you?
Yes, and then
Now, we're at that
situation.
magic time of the year in Florida where they start burning the sugar cane.
Oh.
So you walk outside and go, ooh, creme brulee.
Yeah, in North Andover, though, they also had another fatality. The system that you have what's called floating cover digesters. In other words, they do anaerobic digestion of the solids. And actually, I don't know what happened to the controls, but it overflowed. And North Andover really wasn't too happy.
Well, they hardly would know the difference.
It went
it's
into
North
the
Andover.
wetlands, etc. But I think, Tim, I think that the reason the governor wants to take the program over is not because he thinks that Massachusetts can do better on its own, especially since they had a 10% cut of staffing in DEP and all the agencies. Where is he going to get that money for those federal jobs that see in DEP you have two categories of jobs. You've got state jobs, which are funded by the Great and General Court and the governor, and you also have the federal jobs, which are as a result of grants from EPA.
Okay, right.
So if EPA is, where's the money coming? Where's the meat? Where's the money?
No.
I really think, maybe we'll be talking about it in a year from now if I'm still around. I really think that this is a move to slow down the needs of infrastructure. Really, I think so.
All right. Well, that's an interesting theory.
There is all kinds of consent decrees of all the communities on the Merrimack River. There is a consent decree that EPA has initiated.
Well, there's one in Haverhill.
Yeah, Haverhill's in it, and Haverhill is really one of the few that's really done anything.
Well, Haverhill's agreeing to do some work.
And they've already done some work.
Yeah, they're going to also do some riverbank restoration as part of the consent order.
They also did some separation too of combined sewer overflows and things like that. I would say of all the communities on the Merrimack River, and it's not hard to like Haverhill. They are the ones that have really done the most on this to fulfill the requirements of this consent decree. Bethune hasn't done hardly anything.
All right, folks, you've heard Haverhill's doing okay. Jerry, I'm afraid we have to go to local weather. Oh, no, that's fine.
No. It's just that Chris is getting really that ugly look on his face. That means he's going to cut us off anyway.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, and I will keep you in the loop, Jerry.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Jerry. Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right, folks, we're going to take a brief break for local weather, and we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show and David Goudsward in just a minute.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:38.
Tom Bergeron wants your help. He's the honorary chairperson of WHAV's Make Waves campaign to bring local news to FM. The sooner you contribute at WHAV.net, the sooner WHAV signs on at 97.9 FM. Just look for Tom's photograph.
Catch the wave!
This is Tom Hartman inviting you to tune into the Tom Hartman program on WHAV every weekday beginning at noon. I'm here 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, taking your calls live and providing all the news you need to know. The Tom Hartman program is your media support group for We the People. Again, please join me weekdays beginning at noon right here on WHAV. Remember, only local radio can bring you this progressive talk opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Wave weather!
I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre with Wave Weather. There is a frost advisory late tonight through early Tuesday morning for interior locations. We'll have clear skies. Temperatures will be bottoming out in the mid to upper 30s. Some of the more isolated spots, the more protected spots tonight may drop into the low 30s. On Tuesday, looking forward to sunshine, upper 60s to near 70. Clear Tuesday night with a low in the mid 40s. And on Wednesday, sunshine with a high in the upper 60s to near 70, maybe cooler at the coast with a sea breeze. I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre. Your next Wave Weather in 30 minutes.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
WHAV FM. Quality of our new FM transmitter. We would appreciate a card from you telling where you live, the strength of the signal you hear, the quality of the broadcast, and the time of the day you heard us.
And that was Bob Clinkscale, known as Bob Douglas then, in 1959. We confused Chris by playing this from the newsroom. He was lowering it as I was raising it. And but that's Bob Douglas. But you know him, WCVB TV anchor Bob Clinkscale, who was one of the first news people to sign on when Channel 5 took over from the former WHDH TV Channel 5 that lost its license in a 20-year bitter battle. I don't know if you remember that, David. For us, we were kids in school. For us, it simply meant that Channel 5 no longer was CBS and became ABC.
Channel 5. Yeah, I don't think I remember 5 as anything but ABC.
No, yeah, 5.
Of course, I turn the channels on now, and it's like, wait, isn't Channel 4 NBC? No, it's not. What's going on here?
That's right. So back then, it was a pretty big move in Boston at the time because WHDH had been on the air as Channel 5. Now Channel 7, I think, is known as HDH.
Yeah, I think so.
But it had been on the air for 20 years and lost its license because of improprieties in the original application they made. And Channel 5 ended up, the new Channel 5, WCVB, promised to the FCC that it would provide more local programming than any television station in the country. And for many years, it did. Programs like Jabberwocky, Good Day, I believe Chronicle is still on, I think.
Well, frankly, if it wasn't Creature Double Feature, not really my department.
Now, speaking of Creature Double Feature, Channel 56 was known as, matter of fact, I had forgotten this, WKBG, before it was known as LVI, WKBG, Channel 56. Well, that's where Bob Clinkscale was working when the move came to the new Channel 5. So lots of history. And those of you, a little trivia, how things circle back. Ed Johnson, for whom this room is named, Haverhill High School beloved public speaking instructor. Ed Johnson served on the board of trustees at one point of Emerson College in Boston, and Bob Clinkscale, after retiring from Channel 5, went on to be a professor of journalism at Emerson. So lots of recycling in the radio industry as well.
I think that's pretty much the standard operating.
But you'll find a lot of these people moved around. But here we are. We're ready to take a break again. It's funny how that works. But if we'll go back to David. Somehow we haven't really gotten too deep with David.
I'm fine with that.
But reunion of the radio stars. This is a WHAV venture aimed at raising enough money to finish construction of the FM and finally get the new WHAV FM 97.9 on the air. And all of these guests are coming. So it's Wednesday, June 8th, about a month from now, Wednesday, June 8th, at Maria's Galleria Banquet Hall in downtown Haverhill. And these are the guests that are coming. We have Paul Belfay, Joe Clementi, WHDH, Bob Klingscale, we just mentioned, Joanne Duty, who's been at WFNX, WXRV after WHAV, Patricia Johnson, Pat Johnson, who was known as Pat Sprague at WHAV until 1961, then went to WCCM. Mark LeMay had started out at WALE and then WHAV, and I think there's a couple of others in there, WCCM, and he'll be here with us as well. Dave McCauley, currently on WNBP in Newburyport. Bill Masick, although at the time he was Bill Maxwell. And as Bill told me a funny story, he had several radio jobs, and he was working at one station under the name Bill Maxwell that he always used, and he was hired at another station, and he used that same name. Well, one of the radio stations objected, saying, well, we don't want Bill Maxwell on our station if he's going to work for that other station, so you have to change your name. So the one record ends. When the record started, he was Bill Maxwell. When the record ended, he was Rick Adams. Or something along those lines.
It's a miracle.
So these are going to be some of the fun stories you're going to hear. Eric Scott, Mark Watson, and we just heard late last night Mike Burns from WMJX. Magic 106.7 is also going to be joining us. This is an historic event. All of these major Boston radio personalities, some television personalities, coming here to Haverhill. And it's your chance to get autographs, hear these funny little stories. Eric Scott's going to tell you how he's the only DJ who broke his toe in the studio. Well, I'm not going to tell you any more about that. You've got to come to the reunion. But almost everyone has a great, funny story. It's everything is included in this. You're going to be able to get your food. You're going to get your wine, $45 a person. All right, so we need to take a break, but Chris actually is answering phones. Chris, let's take a brief break. This hour we're going to hear a movie review from Take Two Movie Review. We'll be back.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Are you listening to WHAV on cable television? If so, join WHAV in thanking the board, staff, and members of your local public access channel.
Catch the wave!
On the next Making Contact.
So it looked like a science fiction landscape with a dust storm occurring at the same time as there's flames literally in the air. It was like a tornado of fire everywhere around you.
From fires to storms, climate change is magnifying natural disasters around the world. What are some of the hidden consequences?
You risk long-term compromise. So when you're talking about significant psychological impairment, you're talking about people who can't work, you're talking about people who can't maintain relationships.
We'll explore the social and psychological costs of climate-induced disasters.
Making Contact is heard every Wednesday night at 6:30. Remember, only local radio can bring you such compelling features, but only WHAV does.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, a deluded king, a conniving president.
Historical footnotes can make good fodder for cinema. They are frequently populated by consequential figures, but aren't hindered by well-known conclusions. Such is the case for Elvis and Nixon, a limited-release film and second attempt at the quirky story of their meeting. The first was a lightweight affair from 1998 called Elvis Meets Nixon. This one is humorous to be sure, but has depth, both with respect to the historical figures and the period, the early 1970s, that birthed the culture wars alive today. Distressed over personal issues and the cultural and political direction of the country, the king escapes his handlers at Graceland, travels to L.A. to meet longtime associates Jerry Schilling and Sonny West, and then, with them, flies on to Washington. Elvis had become fixated on meeting President Nixon and becoming deputized, somehow, to fight drugs and moral decay. The picture is divided roughly between the politicking on both sides to set up the meeting and the meeting itself. Elvis is played by the terribly underrated Michael Shannon, who darkly juxtaposes the character's arrogance and ignorance with his sensitivity, commitment, and vulnerability. Nixon is brought off by Kevin Spacey, now well-versed in playing devious politicians. Johnny Knoxville and Alex Pettyfor score as Elvis confidants West and Schilling, respectively. On the White House side, Colin Hanks and Evan Peters do the same for future federal inmates Eagle Crow and Dwight Chapin from the doomed Nixon White House. Acted out, of course, is the taking of the famous picture of the two shaking hands, still the most requested photograph ever from America's National Archives. Performance and historical perspective bring Elvis and Nixon from the amusing to the engaging. Catch it if you can. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show. David Goudsward is co-hosting tonight in studio. We're going to go right to the phones. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Hello, Tim. This is Kenny. How are you?
And it's Kenny Quimby, former Haverhill City Councilor and City Councilor to be, I predict. How are you, Kenny?
Yeah, good. I'm good. I'll be there next year. I'm running next year. I will attend your event. I just found out now about it a few minutes ago when you were advertising it, so I will buy a ticket and I will be at the event. Anything to help the cause for your new FM station there.
Well, thank you, Kenny. That means a lot to all of us. It's gonna take some money to get these last phases built, putting up the antenna, getting the transmitter on, the engineer's costs, so on. Not to mention the legal costs. So, Kenny, that is great, and I'm sure you remember some of these names. So I think you're going to have a great time.
I do. Yeah.
And I bet they remember your name too.
They might. So what's the progress as far as the antenna? Is it going to be ready sooner or later this year?
Well, actually, all right. I don't. I'm not a superstitious person, and I don't want to jinx anything.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris just told me something, and I don't know what he was saying. But we are possibly weeks away from starting.
Good.
Very weak.
Yeah, no. But we have an application pending before the FCC to do a couple of things, and when we do that, WHAV will be going home, you might say, broadcasting from Silver Hill, after all.
Oh, beautiful.
For a long time, Silver Hill was off limits to us because of an agreement we had to make in order to get a license because of another station in Lawrence. But that station has done something else entirely, kind of freeing us up to go back to Silver Hill. But again, we're waiting for final engineering work on that, but it could be as little as weeks away. And there's even some of us talking that maybe this broadcast on June 8th could possibly be the inaugural broadcast of WHAV FM 97.9. But, well, these things have gone wrong before.
Yeah, I know it.
Say it isn't so.
Yeah, exactly. But so I'll definitely buy a ticket. I'll go online or find out the information. I'll buy a ticket, and I'd definitely like to be there for your presentation and help you guys out.
Well, we
possible.
really appreciate that. This is Ken Quimby, folks, lifelong Haverhill resident, former member of the Haverhill City Council, and I'm pretty sure we'll see him on the ballot again.
Oh, yeah, you will next year, 2017. That's definitely I'm running. Oh, yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. No.
And I think we even have a Ken Quimby red pen right here in the studio.
God, I hope it still writes. If not, I got plenty to give away.
All right. Well, let you know
No
if
problem.
we need a refill. Thank you so much, Kenny.
I'll see you later, Tim. Thank you again.
All
See
right,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, we're going to go to another phone call. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Hi, good evening, Tim. This is Greg over in Bradford. How you doing?
Oh, Greg, wonderful. This is a person well known in our local broadcasting circles and a great Haverhill resident. Greg, thank you so much.
Hi, I was just listening to your discussion of the TV station, WKBG, Channel 56.
That's right. Well, David mentioned he used to watch Creature Feature, and I remember coming home after school. They had all those reruns on, which I enjoyed. Timmy and Lassie and Lost in Space and all that stuff. But what were you going to say, Greg?
Well, what I was going to say is WKBG, that was originally owned by Kaiser.
That's right.
And then it was sold. I don't know if you can still hear me because we're getting cut off here. Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. But what happened was they were not the original licensee of Channel 56, and a lot of people don't know that.
Oh, well, tell us the story. We love history.
Okay, way back in 1953.
Okay.
The Boston area and most cities, a lot of cities ran out of space, and when they lifted, there was a freeze on licensing.
Oh, that's right. I know about it.
VHF stations because they wanted to plan the spectrum a little more effectively and prevent interference. But they then decided in 1953 to open up the UHF band. And WTAO, which is now WJI, their AM station is now WJIB, owned by Bob Bittner.
Oh, right. Cambridge.
But he didn't own it at the time. WTAO TV went on the air on Channel 56.
Really?
Yes. And what happened was Channel 4 was the NBC affiliate. Channel 7 was the CBS affiliate, but it carried some ABC programming and also some Dumont network programming because Dumont was still operating at the time. And then when 56 came on, they were the ABC and Dumont primary affiliate for Boston.
Really? So a UHF station carried what was the third and fourth of the networks, ABC and Dumont. Isn't that exciting?
They didn't last long.
Now, is that because they couldn't attract sponsorship, or because UHF was? I remember as a kid, even then, we had to have a converter box to watch UHF on our TV.
Yeah, no one could get the station.
Yeah.
All right.
And it was on Zion Hill, in the transmitter Zion Hill in Woburn. So if you lived up in this area, you'd be able to get it quite easily if you had the equipment to get it. But it would cost about, in the currency of the day, about $50 to convert your set to get Channel 56. And also Channel 14 in Worcester, WWOR-TV.
Oh, okay.
No relation to the station in New Jersey.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, you're a wealth of information.
Yep, they were on the air, and around 56, WTAO, they kind of bought the farm. They pulled it.
Oh, okay.
And then around 57, 58, Herald Traveler won the license for Channel 5, WHDH.
Okay.
Herald Traveler, Channel 5, was an ABC primary affiliate, WNAC TV, Channel 7, RKO General Corporation, was the CBS, and WBZ, Westinghouse, Channel 4.
Of course, RKO later
NBC.
lost its licenses.
Okay. Now what happened was CBS and NBC got very, very upset with a lot of their network lineup being preempted in Boston.
Okay.
Channel 4 and Channel 7 love to preempt network programming. As a matter of fact, its penultimate preemption was in 1960. Well, The Tonight Show with Jack Parr wound up going to Channel 5 because they would take any desirable CBS or NBC programming that came along.
Okay.
And because, like, for instance, Jack Parr was on Channel 5, the ABC station. The Huntley Brinkley Report was on Channel 5. Saturday morning children's programming on CBS was actually on WGBH Channel 2.
Really?
And in 1960, yep.
Wow.
And in 1960, CBS had the first Olympics that were televised. That's the thing I know a little bit about.
Oh, that's right.
From Squaw Valley, California.
Greg is our Olympics expert.
Squaw Valley, California. And what happened was WNAC TV decided it would be fun. They refused to clear some of the Olympic sports programming.
What reason they had? They had something else they were selling?
Probably an old movie or Salad Master or something. I don't know. But they used to love to horse around with the networks that way.
Well, I think Boston Radio did the same basic thing a lot, too.
I remember Salad
And
Master. That's another day.
Well, WGBH TV, Channel 2, picked up the CBS broadcast in the Olympics in 2 weekends, cutting the commercials out.
Really?
They went to, yep. And that was something, you can research this in the Globe, that Channel 7 refused to clear the Olympics. And what happened was within a year's time, because WHDH-TV had a superior news department, everything else, they had full in-studio color. They did have some children's programming, although WCVB came over and continued that. WHDH was very good local station for news and local programming itself. And finally, I think it was January 1961, CBS signed on with Channel 5.
Okay.
Channel 7 had to take ABC programming, and ABC was still a minor network at the time. It was still fledgling.
Right.
And what happened was when the license switch in 73 happened, CBS wanted to go back to Channel 7 because they didn't know what this new affiliate was going to do, what this new WCVB was going to do.
And actually, Channel
So
5 said they were going to preempt the network a lot, so I guess that was a threat CBS didn't like.
Yep, they didn't like it, neither did NBC. And after that point in time, and NBC had some type of a feud with Westinghouse. But what in the 50s?
Didn't everybody?
I don't know.
Well, you know what?
They did have.
I'm sorry.
What happened in 1970? What happened was 73. If you look at what happened on ABC, they had the Thursday night lineup. All of a sudden, Welcome Back, Kotter, Happy Days.
Yeah, I was just going to say, ABC turned out to be the #1 network for a while in those days.
And that's what happened. And but there were always blunders made because, for instance, Channel 56 in the late 60s were televising both Celtics and Bruins road games.
Oh, okay.
And it got to the point where they could only carry one. So somebody in an office tower in corporate made a decision. Well, whoever watches hockey anyway?
Oh,
this
boy.
is around 69, 68, 69. We'll keep the Celtics, and we'll let the other station,
WSBK, right?
WSBK, pick up the Bruins, and the rest is history.
Wonderful history, Greg. So you're now our broadcast historian.
No. I can't hold a candle to Donna Helper.
Oh, no, actually, you know, it's funny. Donna Helper, I spoke with her this weekend. She will not be able to make it to the, she's a great, for listeners and viewers who don't know, she's just the most renowned broadcast historian. Unfortunately, she is, I don't know if she wants me to say this on the air, but I think she's going to be having surgery, so she won't be able to make
I hope
it.
she's okay.
Yeah, I got the impression it was something routine but scheduled. So
I hope it's okay.
Yeah,
I hope
so,
she's fine.
Yeah, so
Because
yes,
she did come to the Boxborough Ham Radio Convention last October, and I finally got to meet her face to face there last September.
And she actually came to
August. I finally got to meet her face to face there.
And she came to Haverhill for the our first fundraising event to kick off this fund drive 3 years ago for the corporate FM. And so she was here in Haverhill. So, but did you recognize some of these names I mentioned for our reunion?
Oh yeah, Bob Klinkscale. Recognize some of them.
Yeah,
certainly.
I think it's going to be fun to hear more about the early days. At least that's going to be my choice. It'll be fun to.
If you want to go historical, there is another construction permit that's adopted old time radio call that many people will remember from the North Shore and the Merrimack Valley.
Oh, are you talking about the Gloucester?
WVCA.
That's right. And actually, one of the people involved in that has been here on the Open Mic Show, and maybe we'll have him back.
Yep, because what's happening up there is he got into he made a filing.
A very rare, yes.
Yeah, against WBMT, and the FCC does allow for shared time if the station can't run full time. Then the rest of their time you can apply for it, and he's got a construction permit now.
Yeah, folks, in case you're wondering, the station that was only part-time was a high school station at Masconomet. And since it's off in the summer, it's off at night, it's off weekends, they made a very good case that local programming in that area would be better served by allowing another station to share time.
Yes. And there were also some things, if you look at the FCC records, there was some...
it was a pretty colorful record, I understand.
Yeah, pretty colorful record of WBMT. They forgot to renew their license, from what I read.
Yeah. Well, just so you know that one of these pieces of paper is on my desk is our renewal. So you'll be happy to know that.
Okay, no, but there was something they had slipped or something, and they were running. They were running under in a special authority. I think if you look at the paperwork, but
yeah, I've heard
it was routinely approved, but it was, the FCC. I don't think they were overjoyed about it, and that opened the door for this gentleman to come in and do that. So, unfortunately, I don't know if we'll be able to get that station over here in Haverhill. I don't think we will easily.
I don't know if I've seen a coverage map. Well, maybe, but we'll see how that goes. But Greg, this is really great filling in our broadcast history. I really appreciate it.
Yep. And there was one more Haverhill station that a lot of people forgot.
There was.
Yes.
Which one?
When Bradford College.
Oh, you're right.
They had a 1-watt station that I don't know if it was documented or not, running at 87.9.
That's right. Somehow I have an idea that's undocumented.
I believe it was. Yes.
Hey, and that is a very polite term. Thank you, Greg.
Yes, the best way I could describe it. But living where I live in Bradford, we could listen to it, and they did have some innovative programming on there some nights.
Well, we hope you'll be able to make it to our reunion of the radio stars.
I intend to.
All right, well,
but I'm not a star. I'm just a schmo, so.
Yeah, but you have all this information. We're going to have to bottle that and be able to call on it. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome, and I got to go have dinner.
All right, well, thank you for your call. We really appreciate it, Greg.
Okay, good to talk to you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
All right, Greg from Bradford. Oh, wow, he's going to be our broadcast historian, especially broadcast television. Some interesting stuff. Okay, we're late for news. Chris is almost quit. I got to go to news, or Chris, put your coat. No, all right. We're going to go to local news with news director Dana Esmel, national news, local weather, and we'll be back with David Goudsward on the Open Mic Show.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 8:09.
WHAV LP Haverhill. WHAV is a nonprofit community service of Public Media of New England, Incorporated.
Here's what's happening in local news. Supporters of Creative Haverhill this morning launched an email campaign urging Mayor James J. Fiorentini to add last week's City Council tourism proposal to his proposed budget. Creative Haverhill, which is largely funded by a state Adams grant, would receive 5% of meals tax and parking fine revenues through an Act Haverhill fund. The proposed city contribution, estimated at $45,000 per year, would be matched by corporate sponsors, quote, to promote arts, culture, and tourism as a tool for Haverhill economic development, according to a proposal by City Councilors Andy Vargas and Thomas J. Sullivan last Tuesday night. Quote, it is crucial that Mayor Fiorentini understands the value of investing in the arts, which is why I'm asking for your help today. Though we've received support from the City Council, it is only the mayor who can make changes to the city's budget. Will you consider emailing the mayor to express your support for the Act proposal? Jenny Arndt of Creative Haverhill wrote in an email to supporters. Chief of Staff David S. Van Dam told WHAV, quote, arts, culture, and tourism is important to the mayor, but he wants to review what was presented at the City Council meeting before making a decision. The budget is done. We have to figure this out, end quote. The last time WHAV began program testing on FM, listeners heard announcer Bob Douglas in a series of perfunctory announcements alerting listeners to the presence of the new station. That was 1959, and Bob Douglas went on to an esteemed broadcasting career, including as one of the pioneer news anchors at WCVB Channel 5 using his real name, Bob Clinkscale. He is one of Boston's broadcasting celebrities making his way back to Haverhill for an historic reunion of the radio stars, Wednesday, June 8 at 6 p.m. at Maria's Galleria Banquet Room.
This is WHAV FM in Haverhill, Massachusetts. We are program testing our new transmitter on 92.5 megacycles.
His appearance is especially fitting as the WHAV call letters prepare to return to FM at 97.9. Clinkscale, who served as WHAV program director at the time, joins alphabetically Paul Belfuil, Joe Clementi, Joanne Duty, Patricia Johnson, Mark LeMay, Dave Macaulay, Bill Maxwell Masick, Eric Scott, and Mark Watson. Tentative attendees include former WBZ news anchor Gary LaPierre and James Simmons, former WHAV program director who preceded Clinkscale. Other celebrities are expected. The public is invited to enjoy the reunion featuring wine and food pairing. Tickets are $45 each or $425 for a table of 10 and may be purchased online at whav.net, where more in-depth coverage can be found. A proposed second land donation in a month, which would further expand city-owned conservation land in the Crystal Lake watershed area, goes before the Haverhill City Council Tuesday night. City councilors are asked to authorize Mayor James J. Fiorentini to accept an offer by Kevlo Realty Trust co-trustees Kevin E. Surratt and Leota P. Surratt to transfer to the city for $1 about 10 acres of vacant land at the rear of 450 Crystal Street. The land, designated as Lot 2, abuts city-owned conservation and Crystal Lake areas according to documents submitted by attorney John G. Cleary. If approved, it would be the second land donation in the watershed area since last month's council approval to accept for $1 about 36 acres of land near Crystal Lake at Liberty and Crystal Streets. As WHAV reported April 4, that land transfer was part of a special permit application from Joseph Franciosa, manager, 190 Realty LLC, West Newbury. Also on the meeting agenda, a request by Deputy Public Works Director Robert E. Ward to transfer $125,000 from a wastewater department retained earnings account to pay for engineering and permitting costs, quote, associated with the design of the Merrimack Riverbank Restoration Project at Riverside Park, end quote. Under a consent decree with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Justice, the city is to spend $176,000 toward riverbank mitigation. The action would avoid a civil fine stemming from EPA rejection 5 years ago of the city's long-term plans to meet a federal combined sewer overflow mandate. The Haverhill City Council meets at 7 p.m. Tuesday in Theodore A. Pelosi Jr. Council Chambers at Haverhill City Hall. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Priscilla Huff. At least 36 Americans accused of fraud or financial misconduct are linked to offshore companies in the so-called Panama Papers. Our U.S. correspondent Patrice Howard reports.
The data released shows that among Mossack Fonseca's clients is Len Galchuk, a former U.S. professional football player who has been accused of fraud and racketeering. He is just one of nearly 40 American businessmen tied to the firm, which has denied publicly using offshore businesses for tax evasion, money laundering, terrorist finance, or other illicit purposes. The leaked data has already forced the resignations of Iceland's Prime Minister Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson and Spain's Industry Minister José Manuel Soria. Journalists in possession of the papers are only releasing relevant data, not the documents themselves. Patrice Howard, Los Angeles.
The U.S. Justice Department is suing the state of North Carolina over its law to police the use of bathrooms. The law essentially required all persons to use the bathroom that matched their gender at birth, regardless of how they express their gender now. U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch says the law simply enshrines discrimination.
They created state-sponsored discrimination against transgender individuals who simply seek to engage in the most private of functions in a place of safety and security. A right taken for granted by most of us.
The mayor of Davao City, Rodrigo Duterte, is in the lead as the final votes are counted in the Philippine elections. He's concerned many with his tough talk, including claiming he'd assert sovereignty over parts of the South China Sea by taking to the waters on his jet ski. While refusing to comment on the specific outcome of the vote, White House spokesman Josh Earnest did repeat American policy toward the region that disputes should be resolved peacefully.
And any sort of destabilizing activities there would not be in our interest. So while we are not a claimant to any of those land features, we do have an interest in those differences being resolved through diplomacy.
Families of British service personnel killed in Iraq have been finally given a date for the Chilcot Report. Our London correspondent Natalie Powell reports.
It's been a 7-year wait for the relatives of 179 British service personnel who were killed on duty in Iraq between 2003 and 2009. The report was launched to investigate the UK's participation of the US-led invasion of Iraq and its aftermath. The long-awaited findings are expected to be more than 2 million words long, and family members will be given an early draft of the report before it's published. The chairman of the report, Sir John Chilcot, has announced that national security vetting of his report has been done and the findings will be published without redaction. Natalie Powell, London.
Syrian state television claims the truce for Aleppo has been extended, while the U.S. military says the leader of the Islamic State in Iraq's Anbar province was killed in an airstrike. This is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm meteorologist Rob St. Pierre with Wave Weather. There is a frost advisory late tonight through early Tuesday morning for interior locations. We'll have clear skies. Temperatures will be bottoming out in the mid to upper 30s. Some of the more isolated spots, the more protected spots tonight may drop into the low 30s. On Tuesday, looking forward to sunshine, upper 60s to near 70. Clear Tuesday in the mid-40s, and on Wednesday, sunshine with a high in the upper 60s to near 70, maybe cooler at the coast with a sea breeze. I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
For more in-depth coverage of the news, visit WHAV's website at whav.net. This is Pacifica Radio for the Merrimack Valley. WHAV-LP Haverhill, listener-supported community radio.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
This hour of Open Mic being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. You can visit them at merrimackvalley.info. All kinds of information on all 24 towns in the area served by Council, Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Okay, we have about 11 minutes, although Facebook viewers are going to tune out a little sooner than that, and who knows what happens on Channel 22. So, David, let's spend some time talking about your latest book is Horror Guide to Florida. Available on Amazon, and I believe we have a shortcut to it. Is it on our books page on whav.net?
That's a darn good question.
We'll have to check to make sure that it is. Now, you've done Horror Guide to Massachusetts, Horror Guide to Florida, and you're working on...
It's the new one. It's going to... Volume 3 is going to be New Hampshire and
Vermont. Any interesting stories that people around here might relish, if you want to tease it a bit?
Well, there's... The trick with New Hampshire and Vermont is they're very heavy in folklore. Whereas in Massachusetts you have witches, you've got oddities in the mountains. You really don't see a lot of that in New Hampshire. New Hampshire you have the witch, Goody Cole up at Hampton, and that's pretty much it. You've got vampires up in Vermont, though. And then weird combinations of things you don't see elsewhere. For instance, Nathaniel Hawthorne in New Hampshire. He was up visiting the White Mountains, as the civilized literary crowd was wont to do. Died in his sleep, and the person who found him the next morning was the only president born in New Hampshire.
Really?
So, how's that for a combo?
All right, folks, do you know who the only president was born in New Hampshire?
If you do, I got tickets.
All right, so we'll give you...
it's a long shot, I know.
We'll give you all the tickets you want if you can answer that question. The only...
president.
Born in New Hampshire.
Yep, buried in Concord, New Hampshire.
Buried in Concord, all right. And then... for some of our radio listeners, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess I already have. I kept remembering this episode, not that I was there when it was first broadcast, but I heard repeats of The Shadow with some kind of episode based in New Hampshire.
That is correct.
Did you find that?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember what it is?
Margot and Lamont are going up to New Hampshire to visit her elderly aunt. And it turns out in the woods near the house, there is a Nazi war criminal scientist tampering with things best left to nature.
All right, you can read about this in Horror Guide to New Hampshire and Vermont.
Correct.
When do you think that might be out?
Well, we're trying to get them out once a year, so I would have to say, in an optimistic sort of way, Halloween.
All right. Then a book you're working on for next year.
What aren't I working on for next year? I've got a Horror Guide to Pennsylvania for next year.
Horror Guide
Volume
to Pennsylvania,
4.
Volume 4.
We've got H.P. Lovecraft's Travels to Florida. He made 3 trips down there. And I've got a History of Sea Serpents in Florida. I think that's all I've got due next year.
All right, but then you also have Murder Among Friends.
Oh, yes. See, okay, I really got too many projects going on.
He does.
And the I'm editing the anthology. I'm not actually writing it, so it's a different category. I'm very pleased with the crowd we've got agreeing to do it already. We've got Greg Norris, who is a amazingly accomplished writer. He's written episodes of Star Trek. He's worked in magazines. He's published novels. He's published television, screenplays, movies. The man just... He's a machine.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. We have another call. I'm going to give David the headphones, and let's go to the call. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Hey, how are you?
Well, it is Woody from Kimball Tavern Antique.
Tavern, David's, he's familiar with Kimball Tavern.
That's right. David is familiar with Kimball Tavern.
Last time I was in Kimball Tavern, Bradford College still owned it.
That's right. So speaking about Bradford College, then now they had a radio station.
Yes,
that's right. And so it all started from Kimball Tavern.
Oh.
Bradford College originated in Kimball Tavern in 1803, and I'm going to give you the answer, Franklin Pierce.
All right.
The man knows his colleges.
You win. All
but anyway,
of the
Dave, was you, did you live near Gary Cook on Lake Street?
I don't recognize the name, but I'm so bad with names at this point in time.
Yeah, they lived up by the there was a cider mill over there.
Now, that's the other end of the street. I'm up on the, where it hooks up with West Lowell Ave.
Oh, you were up by, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we were in the cheap seats.
Okay, the stacks were up there,
Yes, about 2 houses up.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, I want to hear what you got to say anyway. So I think I won the trivia.
You won, so you get all of the tickets to the
what?
Haverhill Police All-Stars versus the All-Pro Patriots Celebrity Softball Team, Monday, June 6, 6 p.m.
All right, how many? Just a couple. Send a few out.
I tell you what, I got a whole bunch of things for you, including NASCAR calendars I'm going to drop them off. Can I drop them off at Kimball Tavern?
Yeah, well, we got on a Saturday maybe.
All right.
So you know what? I'll come over and get them.
All right. Well, definitely here tomorrow afternoon if you want to come by.
What time? I want to hear some more, Dave. So I'm going to let you go. We'll figure it out.
No pressure on me.
No, the show's going off. I just got in. I did a little mowing, so I heard that trivia. But I got a good trivia for next week for the tavern.
We can't wait. Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you.
Take care.
Have a good night.
All right.
How long are you sticking around, Dave?
Actually, I'm flying it back to Florida tomorrow night.
Well, hey, this is one quick thing here. I'm reading the paper about the old cemetery in Bradford. And now it says here, this is the first piece of property from Haverhill listed in the National Register of Historical Places. I can't believe that.
That's wrong.
Yeah, that's wrong. There's plenty of places.
Yeah, I know. I know that's wrong. John Greenleaf Whittier's birthplace has to be in there.
Yes, and the Primrose Street Schoolhouse.
Whittier, probably the Dustin Garrison.
All right, I'll let you guys go. I want to throw that out there. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Woody.
Bye.
Our good friend Woody from Kimball Tavern Antiques, corner of Salem and South Main Street, sponsor of many trivia contests right here on WHAV.
Might be the first cemetery.
Yeah, now, I always wondered about this, and maybe I know you don't have it, but...
My fingers are twitching already.
Well, Bradford Burial Ground dates far back, so wouldn't it have been the Rowley Burial Ground? Or was Bradford already known as an entity within Rowley?
I have not ever looked into that aspect of it.
I didn't expect that you would.
I mean, it's like Pentucket Burial Ground. I mean, they didn't change the name to Haverhill, so it may be that Bradford was already a neighborhood of Rowley at that point. I mean, basically all it was a settlement for the sheep farmers.
Yeah, I mean, Bradford's been tossed around. You know, Rowley threw them out. No, Groveland didn't throw them out.
They tried.
Groveland's a separate annexation or separation, I guess. Actually, Mass Moments, I think this weekend talked about all of the towns, and this big split began when Marblehead broke away from Salem, according to Mass Moments, mostly to punish Salem. And then later on, almost everything else broke away. Danvers.
Well, you have to imagine how big these land grants were originally. I mean, Andover property was adjacent to Salem property. There was nothing in between Salem and Andover, which is why the second wave of the Salem witch trial took place in Andover, because it was the only place they could go.
Right, and so back then, and because Haverhill was much larger as well, crossing the border into New Hampshire, that caused a little problem. And the king had to settle the dispute by, this is when we were still part of England, folks, the king settled the dispute by saying, 2 miles, or 3 miles, whatever it is, north of the Merrimack River. And of course the problem with that was that meant the border moves with the river.
And then that got into the Mason which was a whole different crown, and it's a mess.
Yeah, so much for all of
but
that.
But Haverhill did include Methuen, did include Salem, Plastow, Atkinson.
Matter of fact, the North Parish of Haverhill included Plastow, I believe.
Well, if you look at the cemetery, it is both Plastow and North Parish Cemetery. It just depends on how far into it you have walked.
Well, I didn't realize that.
North Parish becomes Maple. I think Maple Grove. It's just a matter of whether you've crossed the border or not.
Well, now that's an interesting piece of trivia, folks. So the Bradford Burial Ground, yes, that was a big event. Although it actually happened last year, they had a formal but brief ceremony with Baron Tenney, who apparently, if I recall, was in our neighborhood when we were growing up.
Yeah, he was down on West Lowell Ave, close to the plant of the Gazette.
All right. So it looks like our time is up, if HCTV is any indication, although my clock says we have a minute. But why don't we take advantage of the time? David, it's been really good to have you here on the Open Mic Show in person. And I hope you get rested because I understand you have a lot more writing to do, editing, and we'll probably throw a few chores at you as well from time to time.
I got something lined up for you already, a couple of pieces. So wavelengths will never recover.
All right, so folks, that's it for the Open Mic Show. Until next Monday night, have your birthday, June birthdays ready. We want to give away the Albee D's second generation Italian bakery cake for June, and we'll do that the last Monday in May. Also, Chris Porter, thank you for producing in Master Control. We'll all be back next week. Thank you.
Open Mic!
Join Tim Coco live on the Open Mic again next Monday at 6:30. The opinions expressed on the Open Mic Show are not necessarily those of WHAV, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. The Open Mic Show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.